There is a silence deeper than death, and it walks the earth in steel. It does not speak, for it has no mouth. It does not plead, for it has no soul left to bargain. It simply marches, unceasing, unchanging, through the ruins of empires, and the memories of men too afraid to recall his name. They called him the Iron Revenant, not because he died and came back, but because something far worse happened. He lived through the end of everything that made him human, and he never once let himself forget. Long ago, before the kingdoms were bound by law, before knights had pages, and lords had titles, there was war, not of conquest, but of collapse. One man, then a prince, watched his people slaughtered, his siblings hung from the ramparts of a burning citadel. Betrayal was not a knife to the back. It was a feast, where every guest turned beast. The boy, who had once recited poetry in candlelight, walked barefoot over the ashes of his home, and in that moment, he did not cry. He did not scream. He simply picked up a sword, and began to walk. It is said that the armor he wears was not made in a forge, but in grief. Each plate represents a vow. Each rivet, a sin unanswered. The helm was the final piece, fused shut not with molten iron, but with a single, unspoken truth. What remains beneath it is no longer a man. It is memory made metal. He did not ride into battle like a knight. He did not serve a crown. He served something older than borders, older than the scrolls priests scribble their laws upon. He served the idea that those who raise their power on the backs of the voiceless must be brought to their knees, and that no flag, no god, no treasury can buy absolution when justice comes dressed in chains and silence. Some claimed he was cursed, others claimed he was blessed, but both misunderstood. The Revenant was not an instrument of heaven or hell. He was a reckoning carved out of bone and sorrow. Where kings built monuments to themselves, he reduced them to rubble. Where warlords hoarded grain while children starved, he arrived at nightfall, and by dawn, their banners hung as burial cloths. He did not kill indiscriminately, but neither did he hesitate. Mercy was a weight he carried sparingly, for the burden of justice is already unbearable when you wear it alone. They feared him, of course. How could they not? No words. No demands. Just the clanking approach of judgment. But children would whisper stories of the times he spared the innocent, left bread in empty homes, buried the dead when the plague claimed too many. In one village, they found a butcher nailed to his own signpost, his blood forming the word, repent. No one saw the Revenant arrive, and no one saw him leave, but from that day on, no child went hungry again. And still, he walked. From the sun-bleached deserts of the east to the snow-choked peaks of the northern wastes, the Revenant moved with the rhythm of war and silence. He wore a wolf pelt over his shoulders, taken not for glory, but because he had slept beside that beast during a winter with no firewood, and when it died defending him from bandits, he could not bear to leave its body to rot. Even in his silence, the Revenant remembered his debts. There were moments, fleeting, rare, when he stood still for hours, even days. Watching. Thinking. Mourning. They say he once spent a night beneath a weeping tree, where 1,000 men had been hanged. When he rose, the tree was gone, burned to ash. The town nearby found no trace of him except a charred helmet nailed to the magistrate's door, and a simple phrase carved into the wood. Your justice is a fiction. Mine is not. And then came Hollowspire. It was the fortress to end all fortresses, 7 walls deep, a mountain made of cruelty and gold. The self-declared God-King, who ruled it, believed himself immortal, wrapped in legions of sorcerers and steel. When the Revenant arrived, he did not bring an army. He brought himself. The gates closed at his presence. The battalions inside laughed. Until they stopped laughing. The Revenant did not knock. He struck the gate with a flail so massive it had no name, just a purpose. It was not a weapon, it was a verdict. And when he swung, the gate folded like parchment. One by one, the defenders charged, and one by one, they fell. Not because they lacked courage, but because courage without purpose is just noise. His shield cracked and splintered, but still he stood. His armor dented, torn, blood-soaked, but still, he stood. The God King begged. He offered gold. Then daughters. Then lands. Then prayers. The Revenant offered silence. And then the final swing. After Hollowspire, the world tried to forget him. Kingdoms erased his name from their ledgers. Bards were paid to sing songs of victory without mentioning who fought the wars. The church declared him heresy incarnate. But the people, the ones who had nothing to sell and no illusions to buy, they remembered. A glimpse of shadow on the road. The sound of iron in the wind. And the fear, cold and ancient, that somewhere out there, the Revenant still marched. They say he laid down his flail one day and disappeared into the wild. That his armor was found beside a lake that reflected no stars. Others say he still walks, but slower now, for the weight of memory is heavier than war. But all agree on one thing. He will return when the world grows too arrogant. When kings forget why thrones are shaped like chairs and not blades. When men mistake peace for permission. When the strong forget to bow to the weak. And in that moment, there will be no prophecy, no warning, only silence. Followed by the slow rhythm of iron boots on soil, chains dragging behind, and a shield notched from 1,000 battles. And by the time you realize who it is, it will already be too late. Because justice, real justice, does not knock. It breaks the door down and walks through fire with nothing but memory to guide it.